company's name is Adello. What we do at Adello is basically try to break up the silos between the data sets. So we optimize campaigns in real time from DSP, DMP over viewability tracking down to the programmatic creative, all in one single unified platform.
Hi, I'm Katie Erbs. I'm from Google. I've been on the DoubleClick side, specifically on the buy side of Google for almost 9 years now. And I'm in our product strategy team for all of EMEA. So basically, it's my job to look at the DoubleClick and Google Analytics 360 suite platforms, and specifically how branding advertisers use that suite of features.
Hi, I'm John. I'm from Xaxis. I'm responsible for the region, and the region would be Europe, Middle East, and Africa. Xaxis is the programmatic specialist for Group M, and Group M is the largest, biggest media investment group. Within Xaxis, we have 4 companies. A company delivering branding solution called Xaxis, one delivering performance solutions called Light Reaction, another one delivering native solutions, being Plista, and the last kid around the block is Triad, delivering e-commerce solutions. So we have a full scale for the sales funnel for advertisers, and we're positioned as delivering outcome-based media solutions, so with guaranteed results.
And I'm Ryan Cook with Teads. I head up our global operations for Programmatic. I've been with Teads for 1 year now. We launched our Programmatic offering in 2015. My focus is on private marketplace, as 76% of our opportunities within Programmatic are through private marketplace. We also run an open exchange, and this is for the largest global video marketplace in the world.
Thanks. Right, so we're just going to kick off with a few bits of data on the European programmatic market, which is put together by IAB Europe. So as many of you may know, IAB Europe is an organization that has 2 types of member. We have corporate members, we have the national IABs as members. So each year we put together a complete Europe ad spend report, the latest issue of which gives the European market total worth of 36.4 billion euros. So within that, we have a programmatic display figure of nearly 6 billion euros back in 2015. We'll be updating these figures later this year. So we've seen a 70% increase in value in that programmatic display marketplace over the last 3 years. And one of the things we're going to talk about today is Germany and where's Germany going with its display growth. As the German figures, I understand, are not quite as high as these overall European figures. In terms of who's doing programmatic, so we all now know and hear that programmatic is mainstream. We produce another report called Attitudes to Programmatic, where advertisers, agencies, and publishers tell us about their pain points and their joy points with programmatic. And that gives us some great data in terms of, and again, I think some of these issues will come up today. So what are the top drivers per stakeholder group? So you can see from this, for example, what clients want is targeting efficiencies, lower cost of media, and also a particularly interesting point for us today, I think, is that they want delivery of brand advertising campaigns at scale. So how can we as an industry get together to help facilitate that? Agencies want to deliver targeting efficiencies, they want greater operational efficiencies, and they also want a change in data strategy to increase data quality. For publishers, the drivers are client demand, maximizing media value, and again, operational efficiencies. So there's reasons about satisfying your clients here, but also achieving efficiencies yourself, and again, that branding at scale point. So let's kick off by talking about the growth areas in programmatic in the German market, and then we can talk about what Germany can learn from other markets as well. So I think private marketplaces are a good place to start. They've been developing quickly. So first of all, who'd like to discuss what that growth's looking like, and what we can learn from private marketplaces in other areas, from growth in other markets?
I'll take that.
Okay, go on.
So we see private marketplaces as a very fast-growing part of our business, and I think we see that as very much set to continue in the German market. Private marketplaces really kind of came about as a kind of acknowledgement that really that not all buyers are equal, and therefore there are certain buyers that sellers want to trade with more on a one-to-one basis. And I think the nature of the German market as being maybe somewhat more conservative towards programmatic means that those kind of controls and that more of that one-to-one relationship with buyers plays quite well. So we see private marketplaces as a key growth area in the German market for us, and one that I think is set to continue across desktop, video, and mobile.
Thanks.
I think the private marketplace, if you take the U.S. market, has been a big factor for Teads at 74%, almost 80% of our business. And a lot of that has been just fear out of the supply that they're delivering on. So there's a lack of quality inventory out in the marketplace. So you have a lot of buyers defaulting to private marketplace just to feel safer. So I think that in markets where buyers are more concerned about the quality of inventory, private marketplace will continue to grow. But as we clean up our inventory to have more premium, safer, high-quality supply, there may be more open exchange growth as buyers feel more comfortable there.
I would jump on that as well, and I would say that I'm not necessarily thinking that Germany is lagging behind, to be honest. As an agent, defending an agency group, we need to put value at the core of our propositions towards the advertisers because we have a mandate to that. And the mandate of today is definitely that we need to put the advertiser in a very safe environment. So trusted marketplace or a PMP, because we see different acronyms we're using in our group, a trusted environment. And the trusted environment is the place, we could call it a safe harbor, where our advertisers would be definitely in a very secure environment. So it's a definite very high focus, not only in Germany, but in the rest of the region as well.
Thanks. Anyone else want to chip in on that? Okay. We've also talked about, well, I'd like to talk about programmatic guaranteed deals. Why do you think that programmatic guaranteed deals are proving particularly popular here? What do you see as the trends being in those areas?
Can I go again?
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
Go on.
So I think programmatic guaranteed is kind of the next iteration, really, of in driving private marketplaces forward. So private marketplaces we've already touched on is that more of that one-to-one relationship or that closer relationship with buyers. And programmatic guaranteed really kind of takes it to the next level in that, at the moment there's nothing guaranteed in the kind of the RTB ecosystem. So publishers are putting inventory out there and not necessarily seeing all of the inventory that they're making available being filled by advertisers. So programmatic guaranteed gives publishers the opportunity to ensure that they know what inventory that they're going to sell and how much money they're going to take out of the market and what yields they're going to command for that. So I think it's a natural next step for all markets and all sellers because there are those kind of guarantees and controls in place. The next iteration really of programmatic guaranteed from kind of currently where we sit today really is around enabling both buyers and sellers to kind of map their data together and that enables those guarantees that we touched on. So at the moment, publishers are making their inventory largely available, so they're guaranteeing volumes, but buyers are largely not guaranteeing the amount that they purchase. So I think what you'll see as programmatic sort of develops, programmatic guarantee develops, is that that kind of merging of both buyer and seller data sets and those guarantees being proper guarantees, so guarantees on both sides that publishers will command a certain amount of money for a certain amount of inventory, and that buyers will then take a certain amount of inventory that they commit to upfront.
Okay, great.
Maybe just jumping on the last point, which I found really interesting, which is around data. I think at the end of the day, why we have the development in these different buying models is largely driven by the fact that we don't trust the data to a large extent. And that's why we have these private marketplaces and these developments, which make a lot of sense in the short term. I think the root cause at the end of the day is the untrusted data, and I think that's where we need to come together as an industry and drive it forward further. Basically taking to the next step and saying we need more partners and we need validation on the data sets, because at the end of the day, people today don't feel that safe in what they buy, and that's why they resort to PMPs, etc. And I think that makes sense, but I think at the end of the day, we need, in order to have a long-term perspective in this industry and make sure that not just Google and Facebook thrive, we need to have a way to have trusted data. And I think that's one of the big challenges over the next couple of years.
Go ahead. Sorry. No, I was going to say from a brand perspective, I think There's lots of deal types out there that exist. We have PMPs, we have programmatic guaranteed, whatever format of programmatic direct that you want to say. From a brand advertiser, I think some of these big FMCG guys have come out and said, we want to move completely from open auction, with not really understanding fully what that means. For them, it's been a safety concern, right? It's keeping my brand in a very safe environment until we feel that the open auction world is cleaner. But to your point around the data side, I think the key growth area for programmatic guaranteed today has been around programmatic space via programmatic guaranteed. And then I guess with an end objective of everything kind of being traded in a more common way. So PG has a lot of areas of growth, data, new formats, et cetera.
Aylin, do you want to come in on that data point and see how you see data being brought
It is
into the
definitely
equation increasingly?
Yeah, it is definitely very high priority to be able to manage data right. So for this, you have to have the technology in place. And this comes back to all the discussion about what is about the programmatic direct deals, advertisers trying to actually have the direct deals in place. So I think this is a very tricky one because you cannot actually expect from all the advertisers out there to have that resources and to have that technology. And now we can even maybe look from the German point of view, saying not only what the German market can learn from other markets and industries, but also look at themselves and see where their talents are. Looking at, for example, German engineering has been quite a historic and established anyway, so I think from that point of view, we should concentrate back and see, okay, we have the data, so the challenge is, and I think Germans are doing incredibly great by having the CRM data in place, managing these right. The next step will be how to integrate this, and then also looking how to manage then the PMPs with that, the direct deals, and how to actually go through the programmatic channels differently.
I still like. Can I say one thing? I think there is a discussion around the value of data. I agree with you, but I think the person or the constituent party that's data is valued least in this equation currently is publishers. So I think publishers would argue, or sellers would argue, that they know their customers better than anyone, and rightly so. But actually, in the programmatic ecosystem at the moment, that data is relatively sort of, it's not valued as highly as the advertiser data that's brought to the table. So I think there is definitely something in and around ensuring that publishers are data will bring the data that they bring to the table is valued as equally as advertisers' first-party data.
Maybe just adding on that one, I totally agree there, and I think the point is, there's a lot of data around there, but there's a dimension of quality in the data and a dimension of being able to action and actually take action on data. I think that's the biggest challenge right now in the industry because we need methods to actually validate the data, normalize the data. And there's different data sets, there's different standards out there. And we need to figure out how to deal with that because otherwise it will just be a lot of data. And many of the publishers are just collecting data and don't know what to do with it. Same with telcos. And we need to find means to actually deliver that promise of actually delivering an outcome at the end of the day.
Totally agree on that. I wanted to give an answer as well on programmatic guaranteed. I think it's really good what's happening in the industry because we're moving a step closer towards automation because at the end it's an automation process. For me, programmatic guaranteed, if you would take a look at the previous way that we made media plans, where we basically send an IO to a publisher, ask them to broadcast something, programmatic guaranteed is that automation process. And we all know that marketeers today, they want to control their distribution, so programmatic guaranteed would be a strategy for me. Would not like filling up a full media plan, but it's going to be a mixture of strategies where you would have open exchanges, private marketplaces, and programmatic guarantees, definitely giving a solutions for the publishers and the advertisers to have a guarantee on pricing, to have a guarantee on quality, and to have a guarantee on distribution, which is very helpful for the marketeer because he can control his distribution over an automated process, which is at the end game that we want to play all in this industry. So I like it a lot.
Good. Ryan, do you want to add to that, thinking about the publisher perspective?
Just coming from the operations perspective, I agree on some points, disagree on others. At the state we are currently, just I'm seeing as I talk with our buyers and what they want to do with programmatic guaranteed, it's adding another step in the process right now. We're not really set up to automate it. It's not really offering a whole lot of added value other than the buy side, buying everything that the supply side sends. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done. Supply side needs to be able to filter better so that they're not sending run-of-network deals anymore, and that it makes it a lot more efficient. But we also need to figure out, long-term how to get around the operations, because there's still IOs written for PMPs and private marketplaces. So we have to be able to avoid that so we don't add another step in something that's supposed to speed up the process.
Okay. So thinking about quality, I think it'd be really interesting to explore how we see programmatic enabling brand campaigns better, and what role whether programmatic can be an accelerator for creativity. Is that something that you see developing? Do you want to kick off on that, Katie?
Well, from a branding perspective, I think there's a lot of components of what's going to actually make programmatic more effective. The first is that the planning cycle for brands is fundamentally not fit for programmatic, in the sense that today we have a lot of people out there segmenting things by branding versus performance, which if we think of the true promise of programmatic, it's that you can actually deliver the right message at the right time to the right person, something we've all been touting for years, but no one's actually doing it, right? Matt Britton at Google has a really good quote of programmatic is like teenage sex a bit. Like everybody's doing it, but people who are, or everybody's talking about it, sorry. Everybody's talking about it. In reality, not everybody actually is doing it, and those that are doing it aren't doing it well. Well, today we're in a world where everybody is actually focused on programmatic, but they're now starting to shift towards how can I actually truly be effective? And every major marketer out there has an objective of improved one-to-one communication. So first we have to break down the silos of brand versus performance, and we have to think about planning as a full funnel customer journey. So really thinking about how you're going to execute across that funnel. So programmatic obviously helps with the reach aspect of that, but what about what you're saying to consumers, right? And that's where we're still just putting the same message out there at every stage of the journey, across all these different formats, and we're not really thinking about the end user and how we communicate them. So programmatic is a dream for creative, right? If you can deliver the right message at the right time, but we still struggle with what that looks like from an execution phase, and I think that is going fundamentally back to planning, right? When a brief is issued from a marketer of I have this objective of engaging with my consumers, you brief today in a very linear fashion, I would say. I'd love your take on this as you guys are getting briefed as a trading desk. How does the creative partners of your brands fit into that process? I think something we're all trying to figure out.
I think what's very important is that we're not a trading desk. But no worries for that. No worries for that. To your point, to your point, we do think that creative is very important, but as a programmatic entity within our group, where we have 600 programmatic specialists, we do have as well a cell which is delivering creativity. We're using tools for that, which is DCO, and basically we see creativity going as well through an automation process, where basically we're scraping what the consumers are doing on the website properties, and basically adapting the message towards those consumers. If we would really speak about creativity like the full big blockbusters or whatever we call this, rising star formats, there I think that there's a big shift to be done through the publishers and making sure that basically we create an ecosystem through the publishers where we have very big qualitative formats, which is not the case today. So I'm openly reaching out to the publishers out there, please do so, because again, it's good for the creativity, it's good for the advertiser, and it will be good for the consumers as well.
It's not getting too far with how creative we get as well. Talking with more publishers, they often have this conversation, what innovative formats do you want to see? And one of the common feedbacks I get is like, I just want you to fill the inventory that we have now. Like we have a 13% fill rate or or something like that they want to fill, but they still want to have creative, better creatives. They want to be at the cutting edge, but they also don't want to be too innovative to where they have another billion ad calls that they can't fill. We've done a really good job, Teads, developing the ad stream format, which is really taking stride in the market now. 40% of digital video is now outstreamed, so it's been great growth there. I think we're creating a format that's great for the brand, and the fact that it's something that can be used across multiple publishers with editorial content. But the end goal is being creative, but not too far where we segment the what we need to deliver on and create too many formats.
Yeah. Well, there's small steps that we're trying to think about that we can put into place, right? We can't fundamentally change a creative team and a media team not necessarily communicating as well as they should. But think about in the world of programmatic, it's all about data and signals that you have available. And the way that people consume media across devices today, it's thinking about the content experience that a user wants to have, and what can we surface in like a bid request? So what if with every bid request you could see if it was a vertical video, if it was a 5-second ad slot versus a 30-second slot? How would you approach developing content so that then a media team can go in and do their job of placing that content in the right way? So I think that's something that as an industry, buy side and sell side can come together and start thinking about the user experience with programmatic and not just the data and the targeting and everything else.
Let's go back to the advertiser then. I mean, we've talked about a lot of quite complex operations for the advertiser to get their head around. So, and we've seen advertisers taking steps into this space to manage the media directly themselves, manage data directly themselves. What lessons do you think they've learned, and what will we be focusing our time in helping them with in the future? Are there any observations you'd like to make on that?
Can jump in first. So in dealing with programmatic for the advertisers, they've actually been, when dealing more directly with the advertisers away from agency and trading desks, they're actually more complex than we thought they would be. So they have their own viewability standards. MRC is no longer the norm. Nestle has a completely different focus than Unilever, but they're all very focused on these metrics. They're very keen on hitting their audience, measuring viewability, and then measuring brand safety. So these are things that the agency and trade desks have been doing, but usually going along with a standard. So the advertiser itself is actually being a little bit more stringent on what they need and what metrics they need to hit. So as we see advertiser first taking over and dealing with the brand, we're actually seeing more complexities and more demands out of them. Whether it's a smarter buyer, I mean, it is a smarter buyer, but we have to work on the programmatic on the supply side to be able to handle that, and as an industry to come across some common grounds, because there's a lot of different approaches that each advertiser is taking.
Well, I work closely with a lot of brand marketers, and at the end of the day, I think everything comes down to them wanting to take control of their consumer journeys and what they're crafting for that. So a lot of the buzz terminology and things that little trends we see popping up here and there, right? So 5 years ago, it was talking to advertisers about what is programmatic. Last year, it was talking to advertisers about what is a DMP. I think that's still happening. So like, you have a marketer that comes to you that says, I need a programmatic buying solution in-house. I need a data solution in-house, just because these are buzz terms that we're generating in the industry, so they think it's something they need to pay attention at. And at the end of the day, they do, because it's about taking back control of what their interaction with consumers is. And so I think this is a good thing that marketers are showing interest in data and programmatic and taking back control of that user experience. I think where we need to help marketers navigate is deciding where expertise should live. I think I saw a trend last year of some marketers starting to think about if they should take media buying in-house. Now I'm seeing that they realize, wow, that's a lot to do, right? We need expertise in the programmatic space. You need skilled up people, and agencies are very, very valuable to that. So it's our job to help them, navigate where's the best expertise for their structure.
I can only second that. I think we had a lot of hope that programmatic would make things a lot easier. And the reality is, once you dig deeper, there's actually more work to be done. I think that's the exciting part about our industry at this moment in time. We recognize the value in data. We see that there is a lot in data, but we need to actually understand the currency, because we can actually tie it back into the business processes. And I think that's the key thing we see right now, that it's all, we're talking about media and data in the first place, but in the second place, we're actually understanding that in a more holistic worldview, we need to tie back into the business process to actually enable something, to have an outcome. And I think that's where many companies are actually popping up, which were not on the radar of the media industry, like the PwCs, the Accentures of the world, who are providing those consulting services you were referring to, in having a data strategy in a more holistic view of a company, because media as such is only a function within the entirety of the company. And that's what we're starting to recognize right now, that once we started to dig into data, yes, we see value for media, but actually the bigger value is for the company as such. And that's where actually where the bigger companies like Palantir are thriving, where the Accentures and McKinseys are investing, IBM, SAP HANA, et cetera. Many companies are coming to this space. And I think the role of the media agency will change dramatically over the next couple of years. From just strategy, sorry, not just strategy, from strategy actually into more holistic worldview.
I totally agree, and as a group we're repositioning ourselves for that, because to your point, advertisers are tempted to say we can do it better, but it's very complicated. So the agencies are literally extensions from the advertisers. So the programmatic teams that we have within Xaxis, like Reaction, Plista, and Triad, are basically extensions from the people in the marketing teams of our brands that we basically deliver the services to. I think what's very important nowadays, where there's a big shift, is that marketeers used to be the people within the organization burning money, while right now they're seen as a very accountable person or a very accountable entity within their companies. So basically, if they invest €1, they need to get €3 out of their investment. And that's where the agencies together, basically with all of us, because we need to build that ecosystem together, that's where we need to deliver value, and that's why outcome-based media solutions is the real holy grail for the advertiser. They need to see results, and that's very important for them. So we as an agency, we are their extension for their teams. That's how we see it in the future.
So from the advertiser's perspective, we can only talk within this topic for the giants, right? So the giants are trying to, like Rocket Internet, etc., or Zalando, are trying to building up even the business models towards that, so they can manage this. For all the average advertisers out there and brands which are not those giants, it is incredibly complicated. It's an incredibly money-burning way as well. And so it should be the focus on who are the experts in that and what tools I need really, what is next, because it gets more and more complicated than only having the PMPs or the direct deals maybe. The next step is the whole header bidding topic, another lovely buzzword of the last year, and it's still rolling and it's going even further with the server-to-server. Head bidding, and I think this is all just too complicated. And if you go to the publisher sites, for example, and ask them how you're actually managing this, and so we don't have that linear waterfall system anymore, right? So it's not on the bucket anymore, but and they all have different solutions, and they don't know. It's a testing way. So to expect all this from the advertiser, from the brand, is just too huge. What we can do is keep on developing actually that technology and to make the advertiser and the brand understand what their real needs are. So transparency, quality, what are the measurements? How do you actually measure quality to get the maximum out of the performance? And so make these, and this is something really good about the header bidding too for the programmatic ad tech side, because now we can be more transparent about what the highest value really was. So from the publisher perspective, there's more transparency, and also for the advertiser, because the advertiser or the ad tech provider gets more viewability of what that premium inventory was really worth like. So you see, it's a lot of complexity within this, and it is more about finding the right measurements through the quality measurements and getting the right technology out there.
I would actually agree and disagree, if I may. So I agree in per se that it is a lot of complexity, and many of the smaller companies can't afford to do that. What I'm trying to say is, yes, as an intermediate tip, I think we're all working towards a good common goal. in terms of making it simpler and providing the tooling and the solutions which actually drive value. Totally get that. What I'm trying to say is, in the longer term, what is the end game? And if you look at the end game, we have all the larger players, Google, Facebook, but also companies like Amazon or IBM, creating their new platform solutions, which means what they do is with Amazon, for instance, last year they posted $1.3 billion in revenues, and they're not on the radar of the media industry. Well, that means they had 60% growth, and they're creating an integrated platform where a company essentially can ship their product to Amazon, put the brand on it, and the entire advertising, the fulfillment, et cetera, is all happening within that ecosystem, and buying into Rubicon and other companies. And that means that there will be very simple solutions out there which could eat everybody's lunch.
Can I just add something?
Yes,
I think we beat
I'd
ourselves.
really like us to focus on value to the publisher and how we are going to how we're all going to help to create the diversity and support that we want across publishing across Europe. So, which means strong publishing community and how they're going to be supported through header bidding and other revenue sources.
Can I just address the complexity thing? Our market is complex, fact. Everyone knows it. You know, it is a confusing ecosystem. But I think we shouldn't beat ourselves up too much in regard that part of the complexity is around opportunity. All of these new emerging technologies, all the data we're able to use, and location-based targeting, and sequential messaging, all of this stuff is a fabulous opportunity for sellers to drive their revenues, for advertisers to reach audiences in the right time. There's, part of the complexity is through the opportunity that all of this stuff creates. Yes, it's complex, but it's not all bad. And can I just touch on the header bidding bit?
Yeah, no,
sorry, I'm on a roll now. So header bidding, I think, people, when we talk about header bidding really means two things. So header bidding, first of all, means a holistic auction. And that really is important for sellers in that a holistic auction is really about sellers being able to bring their programmatic that demand into competition with their direct sales. So therefore, they're able to determine which piece of inventory they should allocate to which channel. So that is a really positive thing, because for overall that will help them drive up their yields and so forth. And it also enables their benefits downstream or upstream, depending on whichever you talk about it, for advertisers who are then able to access the best audiences and so forth. So that's a holistic auction. And then another part of header bidding really is about layering in multiple technology partners. So I think when people talk about header bidding as a sort of a catch-all phrase, it's really two things that they're talking about there. One is the holistic auction, and two is about bringing technology partners like Rubicon and Google, etc., into competition with one another to help them drive their yields. And that is working for publishers, and that is driving more programmatic revenue. So I would certainly argue that there is increased revenue growth for publishers out of that, and therefore which is good news.
Great. And do you see we talked earlier about creating better formats to drive publisher revenue. Do you see that as an integral part of that process to drive new formats?
Well, I mean, at least on the outstream side, this is where header bidding is less of a talk right now, because there's not as many people competing for that space. I think header bidding is a very quality option for a publisher who's been selling display and will continue to do mobile display or standard desktop display. There's so many partners out there buying that inventory that header bidding is a good option so that they know they're getting the highest price. With some of the newer formats such as outstream video, that is less so. I mean, we can integrate through our SSP with all partners who are buying outstream, so be able to offer them the maximum demand possible. Header bidding probably will take place in outstream as it becomes a larger format in the market. So I think, yes, header bidding adds value, but for more traditional formats right now, it's not.
Yeah, well, on the format question, actually, it's something. Germany, I think, historically in the digital space has actually had a lot of very unique formats. There was this one called the hockey stick for a long time. That was kind of painful for, I think, a lot of people, because it was a bespoke publisher format unique to Germany, and then large companies like Google had to figure out how to deliver media into those formats and then make it programmatically available as well, which makes it hard to deliver those things at scale. However, we know that ad formats are fundamentally flawed, right? A 300 by 250 display unit, is not going to be the best experience on a small mobile screen. So it's not an area where nobody's really innovating a lot in this space. It's something where we're even starting to think about putting random people in a room, like random creative types, and saying, what would an ideal ad experience in mobile look like? That's one bit. We have to start designing around the user experience. And then the next is figuring out how do you get it into this complex ecosystem, right? Let's say I wanted to launch a new ad format tomorrow. How would I go about doing that? I would have to work with an agency to show that this is a great format for them to buy. I'd have to work with a publisher ecosystem to say, you need to change your websites and web experiences to make this amazing ad format because you're gonna make a lot of money off of it. And then also a creative that can actually create around it. So you have to align a lot of people to make it work, but I hope that it's something that from all aspects of the industry, we're gonna start pushing the boundaries and create better experiences, because otherwise we're gonna continue to see ad blockers. We're gonna continue to see bad inventory and fraud and things. So this is kind of all stemming from a fundamental like quality issue. So I think we have a lot we can do in the format space.
Does anyone want to add to that, thinking specifically about mobile and formats and where programmatic mobile is going?
So, I mean, I was going to comment on the fact of, you know, there's a different format for almost every advertiser as they have different metrics that they're trying to hit. We talked about both Nestle and Unilever before. Unilever needs 75% of the pixels on the page for 100% of the video. Nestle wants at least 100% viewability for 3 seconds. So there's not a perfect format for everybody, which is then again the other challenge too. We built the outstream format, trying to really reach for the brand, and the viewability is incredible, which has worked out really well. But for some really long extended ads that really need a minute to get their message across, that may not be the play, right? So there's not a perfect format for each one, but mobile, it needs to be high impact. We don't want to run on app because there tends to be more bot traffic, lots of fraud. So for mobile, we need high impact video is where it's moving to, but it can't be disruptive video.
Okay. So I think we're nearly up to the end of our 45 minutes. I'm not sure if we have people ready to ask questions from the audience. I'm going to see if we have anybody with a roving microphone. I'm not sure that we do. If we don't, then I'm going to ask our panelists to do a quick wrap-up in terms of what's their further vision of the promise of programmatic. If people were asked to wrap up the vision in one sentence, what would they like it to be? John's got a vision.
Yeah, definitely. Within the group, if we cannot put value into programmatic, then basically we would say to our members from the group that we need to stop doing that business. So for us, programmatic is literally adding value, leveraging data, leveraging people, media, and definitely technology. And the focus for us is on outcome-based media solutions within programmatic.
Thanks. Ryan?
So ours would just be a clean advertising environment where the advertiser feels that their ad is viewed, respected, and remembered, and also our responsibility to the publisher to deliver a good, responsible environment for them that their users don't mind being part of, and we earn them as much revenue as possible.
Katie?
I would like the word programmatic to not exist. I would like us to just refer to this as it's just data-driven marketing. Right?
Okay.
Programmatic was born out of RTB to deliver automation to a very complex online world. We've achieved that. Now we're at a point where we actually need to make digital advertising very effective and relevant and friendly to the user, right? We know the fact that publishing in the digital space is quite tricky, and we need to deliver relevant information to users. So how do we let publishers do that and monetize at the same time, and let marketers engage with their consumers by being relevant and getting their message across? So at the end of the day, it's just marketing.
For us, really, it's about driving value, and that is based on data. And we have the opportunity, and that's probably my biggest hope for the next couple of years, that the integration of the data side will allow us to measure it and have that unique currency, which allows us to measure it correctly, attribute it correctly, and ultimately drive value.
Rubicon project, we have a vision of the future, and that is a planner buyer sitting in front of a set of Bloomberg-style terminals able to plan, buy, and execute their media campaigns across all media. So I think that, the direction of travel is certainly, if you look at the other media channels like out of home and in print and radio and audio, clearly there's a long way to go before we get there, but certainly that's our vision of the future.
Our vision of the future is, and what we are working since years, is to make the quality and the transparency and the insights of all the optimization, not only saying data-driven, etc., but giving the advertiser at the end more insights about how the optimization is going, how the performance is, and what the tools are, what the control mechanisms are. And so it's definitely about showing the quality of the performance, giving the transparency, making sure that it's brand safe, also having the technology in place also for the branding, upper funnel campaigns and needs, as we see more and more premium brands looking also for the programmatic channel, and so this is relevant data what they can also have in use. So it's actually getting the full funnel programmatic and on a very brand safe and transparent way.
Thanks very much. So I'd like to thank our panelists and thank d3con for bringing them together for the International Experts panel today. Thanks very much.